Hi, everybody. This is Leigh Daniel with Project Positive Change, and I'm here with my co-host, Allison Reiner. And Allison, just introduce yourself, and then we'll go and introduce Josie.
Hi, so I'm Allison Reiner. I'm your Loved Again coach, and I work with women who are unhappily married, looking to make a decision whether they want to stay married or not, and helping them reach the right decision for them and their family and their partner. So.
And Josie, tell everybody who you are, and we'll hop into our topic.
Hi, I'm Josie May, and I'm a love and dating coach, and I work with single women to help them to embrace their self-worth, unlock their inner goddess, and attract the amazing relationship that they desire.
And so today we're talking about something that the three of us may start giggling a little bit about, like some teenage girls. We're going to talk about sex after the divorce. And we'll talk a little bit about sex before the divorce. Hopefully there's no sex during the divorce with the person you're divorcing, at least. And but we want to just kind of cover why that's a big topic. I mean, for me, and a lot of times I get the topic inspiration by the people that come into my office. And many times they come in and there's been no sexual intimacy for many years. And Allison, have you seen that as well when you're coaching?
I've seen it a lot, and it's something that I think it's one of the first things to go. I think, especially from a female point of view, we need to have that emotional connection with somebody, even somebody that we've spent 20 years lying next to in bed, before we're open to opening ourselves up, if you like. So, when...
Here we go.
Started.
I got a picture.
Very funny. So important topic, young lady.
So yes, it is a problem. But it's more of an emotional problem than a physical problem, I think, is what I was trying to say before I got the fit of the giggles. But quite often on the other side of it, when people are still in the place of not really understanding if the marriage is salvable or if they even want to be married, sex is often the only communication, the only way that they've got to communicate. And actually, it's not a bad thing. It's not bad to be able to keep that in play, if you like, whilst you're thinking about. Is that the wrong thing to say? Whilst you're actually sort of working through whether you want to stay married or not, or or what your options are, at least it gives you that sense of connection, physical, but also emotional connection with your partner.
Mm.
And I see. What about you, Josie? So when people are in the dating arena again, is that one of the things that they find that they are concerned about or troubled with?
Yeah, so much. So there's a couple of things that I come across at quite a lot of times with clients. So the first thing is, when is the right time to have sex? Like, how long do I wait? I want it, I want it now, kind of thing. But also, I don't want to be doing it too soon, kind of thing. So I get a lot of women that like that. I also get women that are just terrified of intimacy. Again, after maybe they've been in a long-term relationship with somebody, or it can be they can be scared of intimacy because of abuse previously, or there's all sorts of reasons why women can sort of feel very vulnerable around sex, and enough to stop them dating completely.
Right, and it's not, and I often find, I have to say this, but it's not just women. I work with men and women, and men oftentimes have told me how long it's been that they've had sex in their relationship. And like you said, sometimes it is the first thing that goes, or women will get so busy with their children, and they'll just be like, I'm too busy, I don't feel like it. And I have one client who said he hasn't had sex for like 14 years. And the first time he came in and told me that, I said, why have you stayed in this relationship? And I know that, and you guys may disagree with me, but I think that, the sexual relationship is really an important part of the relationship. Do you guys agree?
Yeah,
absolutely. Without, otherwise you're no more than flatmates.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's quite often, that's what I see as well, is people fall into that sort of almost, and I hear it, and that's actually the term that I hear a lot, is we're living like roommates.
Yeah.
And it's no way, you know, you can go and get yourself a roommate. Life is so much simpler. But if you want to have, if you've made that commitment to each other, then it's really a part of the relationship that you need to give time and attention to. And if you are, as a woman, if you have emotionally withdrawn, you need to find a way to work through that and find a way to reconnect with your partner. Otherwise, there really isn't anything, you know, there's nothing there to keep you together as a couple.
Well, and what about you, Josie? I mean, what if somebody came in and told you, and I probably had the wrong reaction, but I was just, you know, I was stunned. First of all, I said, what? You know, he said, no, not since she was pregnant with our youngest child. It was 14 years ago. And what would you say if somebody said that to you?
Well, I think it's sad for first and foremost. And I suppose that the first thing I'd want to know is, how do they feel about that? Do they want sex? Because there are men out there as well that don't have sex drives. You know, but there's often the sort of the preconception that men have the high sex drives and women have lower sex drives. And in relationships, they want it more. And, you know, sometimes that's the case, for sure. But there's also, I've spoken to many women who have been in relationships where actually they had a higher sex drive and they weren't getting the amount of sex that they wanted as well. So the first thing I'd want to know is, you know, why? Was that because they weren't connecting? Was that because neither of them wanted to, or whatever? But the other thing is, it's, I suppose, kind of trying to get to the bottom of, are they interested in it? Do they want a relationship with a healthy sex life, really?
Right.
Because it is possible. Of course it's possible. And I think women, we connect a lot. Sex is a lot to do with emotion.
Right.
So we can be angry at our man and not want to have sex, because it's almost like we're giving in, because whereas a man often won't connect the two as much as a woman does. And I'm not completely generalizing, because I know everybody's a bit different, but on the whole, I think that's the case, really. We're a lot more connected emotionally when it comes to sex.
Right, and I don't know the answer to that question. I just to that particular client, but I did have a woman just a couple of earlier this week who'd been married for 36 years, and two different women. One, the 36-year marriage, and another woman who'd been married quite a while. And she says, "Well, my husband won't have sex with me anymore." And I said, "Why not?" And she knows he's having affairs, but he won't have sex with her anymore. And it's breaking her heart. You know, she's had 4 affairs, but she said it's been years since he's had sex with me. And, you know, and I always say, no matter who it is, and if you're watching, no matter who you are, you deserve something better. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, and I think that people will stay in that situation because they think, I have these obligations. Maybe this is all there is. Maybe I shouldn't expect that anymore. And I just want to say, you know, we all deserve the very best life we can have. And that's what these 2 experts are here. You know, that's what they do, is teach people how to have the best life, you know, and I help people get free from the old life.
I think also the thing with the kind of the thing with sex is people, you know, there's ups and downs, isn't there, in relationships? And I'm sure Allison will know a lot more about this, working with kind of people who are a bit unsure about if they want to stay in a marriage or not. But there can be times where you're having great sex, and then there can be periods where it lulls a bit, like maybe after having a child, or, you know, there's ups and downs as well. And that, I suppose what I wanted to say is, that's completely normal.
Right.
It's when it's for a sustained period, isn't it? It's when it continues.
It's just like with any other emotion or any other thing. If you get stuck in that phase, it's okay to go through different emotions, but getting stuck there. And I think maybe I also see a lot of polarization when it comes to sex. One party wants it and the other party doesn't want to give it. What do you think, Allison? Have you seen that dynamic in your people you coach?
Completely. And the reason, you know, I'd like to say that the reason that people don't want to give it is because they're emotionally disconnected, but a lot of times sex is used as a tool. Yeah. It's used exactly as, you know, as you were talking about your client a second ago. People will withhold it, or women will withhold it, men maybe too, I don't know so much, but women withhold sex as a way of getting what they want, as a way of controlling the relationship if they feel out of control in other aspects of the relationship. So yeah, it's a tool that And when it's used like that, it's a dangerous, and it's a sick way of it, a sickness in the relationship. As Josie says, often we do go through these lulls and these ups and downs, and it's fine. And then there are periods, but it's when you get to that period where you realise that it's uncomfortable. One of you has to make a decision, and sometimes that decision is, I'm just going to do it anyway and get back into, because I don't know about you, but if you've not done it for a while, you kind of get lazy. And once you do it again, once you get back into it, you think, oh God, I forgot.
I remember. I feel the same way when I'm on the treadmill. I'll be like, oh, this wasn't too bad. So I mean,
the more you have it,
the more you want it.
Studies have shown the more you have it, the more you want it. And the other thing is, people's sex drives don't match up. And I think we often we wait until our partner wants it and we want it. And the thing is, that's not always going to match up.
Right.
So sometimes when you're in your partnership, when you're in a relationship, sometimes you've got to kind of think about, sort of how you can make that work. Like even discussing sex, even talking about, I prefer it in the morning. Am I talking personally, or I'm just giving you an example?
Yeah. Josie, come on.
I'm a morning person. But after 10 o'clock at night, not a chance, because I'm tired. So there's no good my husband trying to, at 10:30, because I'm done. But if he knows that, but if you don't have that communication, you can really get mixed signals, can't you? And feel rejected.
Right.
There's nothing worse than signaling to your partner that you want to have sex and then them not responding. And the thing is, sometimes we think we're so clear, but we're not necessarily being that clear. So I might rub my husband's leg and I think, well, he knows. And he might have no clue. Like, she's rubbing my leg. And these silly things, though, that we think are really clear. And then what you find, actually, they're not as clear cut as you can imagine. So I think that communication is really important.
Oh, yeah. I think so, too, because I've also had times when I meet with people and they say, well, they had their sexual dysfunction because of medicine or because of this or that, and they won't have a conversation about it. And if, and this probably is when you're to the point where you're coming to see me and you're like, I can't take this anymore. I want more for my life. But if you don't have a conversation about if that person can't have sex with you, somehow still having that connection, that energy between you, then it's definitely, you're going to be going through divorce, because you have to talk about it. I mean, that's one of our needs, is connection, and I guess, and love, and that's the way, we can show affection and love. And so I think it's really important.
Yeah, especially, if one of the partners is going through a situation, then, sex is more than just, the physical act. It's also everything that goes with it, the cuddling, the touching, the being close, the being physically close to each other. It doesn't always have to be, penetrative. Is that the right word? Yeah. So, but unless you actually
Allison.
If my mother could hear me now, if my husband could hear me now.
I'm blushing just listening to you.
But
you're right. It's the closeness, and if you're like, I don't feel good because, or I can't perform, or like if I have that one client, like his wife had said, I don't know what she said was wrong with her, but it didn't feel good, whatever. But that doesn't give him any. And maybe because they're feeling on their own, they're feeling guilty because they can't give back, and suddenly nobody's even touching, and everybody's like, I'm on my side of the bed. And, so it's basically all the same reasons they're getting divorced just play themselves out in their sex lives, right?
It's lack of communication, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just lack of communication. Yeah. But the thing is, like, for example, that I had some miscommunication with my husband, in that I felt that if he was something like, if there was like periods where I might not want to do it, like in the evening or something, whatever. And then
we all know that now, Josie.
Yeah, you all know that now.
Yeah.
We're safe to text her after 10:30. We know that she's free.
Done. But if he was like cuddling up to me, I would resist it, because I was like, I think he's wanting to have sex. And when we actually ended up speaking about it, he's like, no, I just want to hold you. And so but if we hadn't had that discussion, well, we didn't have it for a while, because I just kept elbowing him on, and he was feeling rejected. He was feeling rejected. But actually, it was just a lack of communication. And I think there's so much of that. And it's sad to think, isn't it, that people are married for so long, and still that communication can get so mixed and muddled. And we avoid sort of talking about certain things, and sex is definitely something that is avoided, I think, probably
more than anything.
I guess it's hard to, I mean, I think I have a friend, you know, and I've definitely seen clients who don't want to say, I'm not satisfied. Well, you know, they don't want to say that. They don't want to say, this isn't working for me, because they're afraid of the impact it might have on the relationship. But if you don't speak up, it's going to have an impact on your relationship. I mean, again,
you can talk about it without saying, this isn't working for me. You know, if you say that, then what you're basically saying is, you're not doing it for me. You can turn it around. You can give, you know, you can give instruction. It's easier. It's simple. Stop laughing at me. But you know,
you can ask for what you need, can't you? You can ask for what you need and say, it's good for me if you did this, or, you know, I really like it when you do that, or whatever.
Right.
And I think people avoid that. And I think often as women, and I might, again, be being kind of a bit, but I know that we're kind of brought up to be pleasers, can't we? And sometimes not put our own needs.
Exactly.
Especially in sex, you know, not put our own needs first, not first, but, you know, on an even keel. And I think sometimes women don't feel, and men probably as well, don't feel that they can ask for what they want.
Or it's a case maybe of not knowing how to ask for what you want, you know, because if you've been brought up to not talk about it, you know, and I'm laughing about my mum. My mum would be horrified if she thought
my mother too. I'm so glad my mother doesn't watch me on these shows.
Yeah, but you know, if you've got that kind of relationship with it, no matter how liberal you think you are, it does affect the way that you turn up in your own relationship.
Right.
But learning how to ask for it, learning to make it light-hearted, to make a bit of a joke of it,
playful.
Not to make it. You know, I was thinking as Leigh was talking, I've got so many of my clients, and two of them came to my mind as you were talking, actually will take themselves out of their marital bed and into another bed to show their displeasure. You know, for me, that's a pretty shocking, I don't know, shocking way to behave. It really sends a strong signal out. And and if you do that often enough, that seems perfectly normal. But for me, I'm kind of,
No, and I think it's, I can talk about this one. I haven't been married for a long time or any of that, but I definitely know that has always made me feel rejected. If somebody says, I'm going to get up and go sleep in another room, then it just makes you feel a little rejected, right? And if they don't, if they're sick or something, you don't want them to throw up on you or anything. But, if it's just, I definitely can see that. And I see that too. We've been sleeping in separate rooms for this many years. And I also want to say, what message is that sending to your kids?
Yeah, exactly. On the other side of that, though, I've got two good friends who sleep separate to their husbands and have very healthy lives, sex lives and lives together, because for different reasons, but mostly medical reasons. But it's a conversation that they had. It's a decision they made jointly before they got married.
Wow. That's different though. If you have, I think it again is communication.
Yeah. And if both agree that that's the best thing and in a positive way, and you're still having sex kind of coming together, then that's fair enough, I think. But it's when somebody makes that decision, isn't it? Like, I can't lie next to you, almost.
And it really is, it really is so passive aggressive. In fact, there's probably nothing passive aggressive. It's just aggressive. You have to move yourself out of the marital bed just to show the other person.
Yeah,
so let's talk about for a minute, because we got off to a bang, no pun intended. Let's talk about when you're starting over, because I also see so much hesitation and people questioning after they've been in a long-term marriage, perhaps what's going to happen next. And you guys both really work around self-love, self-care, and that's where, in my humble opinion, it has to start. You have to start with loving yourself. So either one of you want to start and just, what advice would you have to that new person, man or woman, who is now thinking, okay, what now?
I would say it's time to find themselves, because often if you've been in a marriage for a long time, you've been with somebody, you're a partnership, aren't you? And you're almost like, you're molded in with who they are. And sometimes you can forget who you are yourself. Yeah. So the first thing I always say to women who come out of long-term relationships is, what do you want from life? Really think about it, really dig deep. Like, what lights your soul up? What have you always wanted to do and never got a chance to do? Yeah. What do you feel your marriage held you back from doing? You know, like, really kind of find that, and then make a plan to go for it, because straight away that raises your self-esteem, helps you to feel better. And maybe like look at your wardrobe, because little things like your style can make such a big difference to how you feel. And I'm not saying, you know, you've got to be stylish or whatever. It's an individual style. It's not got to be fashionable. But what clothes make you feel good? Do the clothes you wear make you feel good? Or have you just kind of got into a bit of a rut with what you're used to wearing? And, you know, could perhaps maybe you rethink that kind of way? Because these are all things that can, it's almost like a bit of a reinvention. And it doesn't have to be when you kind of get divorced, but it can be, can't it? It can be a real kind of blossoming.
Yeah, I think that's so right. Instead of, you know, the fear of finding the next relationship, it's finding yourself and doing exactly that. What is it I want? Who would I have been if I hadn't spent the last 5 years miserable in this marriage? What could I be doing instead? And also, you know, knowing that when you're doing that work, when you're looking at yourself and you're getting to know yourself again, you're building that sense of self-esteem. You're changing. You know, you're changing with every moment. Therefore, you're not the same person you were when you were in that marriage. So you're not going to attract the same person that hurt you, broke your heart, or caused you heartbreak, and you've just divorced from. You're going to attract somebody completely different, because you're completely different.
As long as you process it, and that's
exactly.
That's one thing that I say to my clients is that no matter how you feel about getting this divorce over, you have got to process what you've gone through. You have to deal with it emotionally. You cannot ignore it. You know, you can't run into a new relationship and think that's going to take care of it. You have to work through it. And so, but I have to say, sometimes at the beginning of a divorce, because sometimes divorce can take a really long time. They'll see somebody at the beginning of a divorce, and a few months later, they'll look a little different. And a few months later, look a little different. But at the end, sometimes I don't recognize them. They look so different, and they look lighter, and they look happier, and maybe they're dressing differently, or their hair looks differently. And I'll just be like, "You look amazing." You know, I mean, I see a lot of transformation just from that first beginning stage to the end. And most of the time, it's always really beautiful transformation.
But Josie, is there a sort of time period that you should wait before you go into a new relationship after divorce, or after the end of a long-term relationship?
I just think it's so individual. It's like some people really have got it depends what the relationship was like for one, how long it was, and how you as an individual are coping with it. Are you heartbroken? Did your ex-partner end the relationship and it's not what you wanted? Well, that would obviously take a lot longer to get over. Right. Or have you been building this up for years? Have you been ready to walk for years, and now you feel free? And, you know, then some people can meet somebody else really quickly afterwards. So it really depends on an individual thing. Yeah, some people just want to go out and have sex.
Right.
And not have any attachment.
From my perspective, I see people, especially people that begin to have affairs before the marriage is over. And I caution them to wait till the marriage is finished. I mean, before, not just the divorce, but they start having, you know, affairs. Is that the marriage has been over. You know, the marriage is over. There's no, you know, it's been months, years of dissatisfaction. They aren't getting what they want. They've reached a brick wall. They've gone to counseling, or they thought about counseling. They've been in conversations round and round and round, and they are done with that relationship, just like Josie's done at 10:30. They're finished. They're finished. And so that person that has already been working towards that, just like Josie said, that person is in a much better position than if you...
I'm not even sure that's the case. I'm not, because it depends, you know, because there are so many people that are in that place where, yeah, it's over, it's done, the marriage is over and done, but they've not taken account of their own part, or their own part in the breakdown of it. So then they go out and they do exactly the same thing again. So I think it's, as Josie said, it's much more about the work that you've put in either during the course of the divorce itself, or in the lead up to the divorce, so that you're readier.
And you just have to keep processing. And that's what I tell people. You just have to keep emotionally being willing to look at the things you didn't want to look at, no matter if you're in a new relationship or not. You can't just think, I'm going to just snap my fingers and it's going to be a different life. You got to deal with what happened, and take some of that yourself, because a divorce is it's two people, and it's easy to go, they were this and this and this, but it takes two to tango, doesn't it? And especially when people have been together years, you will have played some part in that. Works a lot on this, don't you, in your coaching. We all play a part in any relationship we're in. And I think it's easier to blame someone else, isn't it? It's all their fault. But actually what happens is you blame the other person for the way they react to your own set of beliefs. So you turn up in a relationship with all your ideas on what a relationship should be like, and the other person reacts against that. And of course, they've got their own ideas and you react against them. But unless you're aware of what your own thinking around a relationship is, then you'll go into the next relationship and it might be slightly different, because the person that you're with has slightly different ideas, but it's the same ideas that you are fighting for. So it'll cause the same ultimate explosion.
But even that as an awareness, isn't it? Some people don't even think that, do they? So even being aware that actually I go in with preconceived ideas about how my partner should be. And if he doesn't match up to that, then he's not matching up to what I expect. And I might then get grumpy or whatever. But actually, it's completely unfair, because I'm holding him up to my expectations and not to what his are. And I'm sure his expectations of me, vice versa. So just having that awareness, isn't it, to think that actually we have different ideas, and that's okay. Flexibility, isn't it? Flexibility. And divorce helps you know yourself. I think it helps you, or I hope that it does. And that's what I also would tell people, is spend some time on your own, trying to figure out, like you guys said, who you are, what you enjoy, and when you go out, attract what you want now, but you got to first know what you want. You know that you want somebody that wants to have sex in the morning, then you got to go for that the next time. You find out who you are, and you know what you want more. And it's not all about what you don't want. I think too often people go, well, my ex was a gamer, I don't want a gamer, and I don't want somebody who works too late, and I don't want this and I don't want that. And I know that all three of us kind of work with the law of attraction and about positive thinking. And actually, you don't talk about what you don't want, you talk about what you do want. Exactly. So, I want somebody who'll be home in the evenings to spend time with me. I want somebody who prioritizes our relationship, who surprises me, whatever. And it's just so much lighter, isn't it? When you think of like what you want in a partner, I want all these positive things, as opposed to I don't want all this. It's just the energy. The energy changes straight away.
Leigh's friend Anela has this fantastic, she does 100 things, and actually I get clients to do it quite often, whether they're in a relationship or not. 100 things that you want from the relationship, not necessarily the partner, but the relationship as a whole. So do I want somebody who's highly, and I'm not going to say what you think I'm going to say.
I'm just waiting.
We're waiting.
Now you've got it all built up.
Somebody who puts his career, all his attention into his career. Do I want somebody, stupid things that we don't think about? I want someone tall, dark and handsome who earns a lot of money. Well, to earn a lot of money, probably he spends a lot of time working in his career. Do I really want that? Or do I want somebody that's home at 6 o'clock in the evening and we spend quality time in the evening? So it's taking time to go through all that, building that picture up.
I do exactly the same thing with my clients. So I ask them to do a soulmate list, but it's not just about who the person is, it's how the person makes them feel. So I feel adored, or I feel content. I feel a big thing that comes up for women that I get all the time is they want to feel secure. That feeling of secure, and I think often if you felt a bit insecure, like the relationship's on the rocks in the past, or they've had difficulties in relationships, a big thing that comes up is secure. But it's similar to what your friend does as well. It's like a soulmate list, a list out to the universe. This is what I want. And when you start to imagine it and think about it, you can get really clear, you know, and get really clear about what you want. I did that before I met my husband.
So did I, and I didn't realize that I'd done that. I did it sort of, you know, I just did that. But the other thing is, it also helps because one of my big problems is boundaries, and you know, and being able to say no to the ones that weren't right. You know, I was such a people pleaser, and I was kind of desperate as well at one point. To actually have that list of non-negotiables is pretty useful to say, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't want a smoker or whatever. Whatever it is on the list. It's so true. It's so true, because often women go on dates with men that aren't even anyone that they'd want to spend the long term. Like, for example, they hate smoking, and then they go out with a smoker and think, oh, we might change. Well, you can't do that. You know, just don't do it in the first place. And I think often we as women often as well think, oh, they might change. We're very optimistic. We see the best in people. But actually, we can't expect people to change either. It's not fair of us to expect them to, is it?
Right. So
manipulation.
Yeah, it is.
We've been talking for a while. It's a very exciting topic, but why?
We'll have to do round 2, session 2.
So where can everybody find you guys? Where can they find you if they want to learn more about what you're doing in the world?
So, do you want me to go first? So, I have a website, stepuptolove.com, or you can find me on Facebook or Instagram at /stepuptolove.
And Allison, what about you?
And you can find me on my website, which is AllisonReiner.com. Facebook, Loved Again and Forever is my group. And I don't really do Instagram. I do, but I can't think what it's called. Or you can find me here in PPC. That's easier.
And you can find all of us in Project Positive Change. So thank you guys very much. I hope that if you're watching, you enjoyed it, and that we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.